66% of American small business owners say tariffs will hurt their business. And if you own a law firm, here's the reality. You're also a small business owner, and chances are you're going to feel the impact.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the first episode of the new Law Firm Growth Acceleration Talk Show. Now, this actually is not the first episode. This is actually the revival of something that started back in 2020. And I'm really excited that you guys are all able to join us today because back in 2020, when COVID hit and the world shut down, one of the things that really kind of, allowed us to help a lot of people was the talk show that we did every week. And Bill started the talk show, and then I later joined in the talk show. And it really turned into this thing in the legal industry where we had, hundreds of attorneys every week coming in, and we interviewed thought leaders in the industry. We interviewed some of the best legal marketers, some of the, most impactful people that are making moves with their law firms. And not only that, but we helped lawyers solve real problems and get through issues related to COVID, related to growth, related to all things that you worry about and that you stress about. A couple years ago, we actually shut down the talk show, and we realized recently, you know what? We need to start the talk show again. So this is our first episode back. I am so excited because we have some amazing stuff to talk about, and it really could not happen at a better time because right now, we are kind of in a shaky situation, right? There's some things happening in the world, some things happening in the country, politically or otherwise. I don't really care what your political beliefs are. It's going to happen to all of us, right? All of us are affecting it, are being affected by it. So I've been talking to a lot of lawyers, and they're kind of wondering, well, how are tariffs going to affect my law firm? How is a potential recession going to affect my law firm? And obviously, with law firms, you're not going to feel the impact directly from tariffs, right? And things like that. But if the economy slows down, we all feel it, right? So, what we're going to talk about today is we are going to talk about tariffs, inflation, trade war, and recession, how to prepare your law firm so that hopefully it doesn't get impacted at all. Now, give me a one in the chat if you have felt the effects of a slowing economy, and give me a two in the chat if everything is business as usual and you're just here because you want to make sure that things stay business as usual. That's going to be our goal here, is to try to keep things business as usual. All right, so Lauren gave me a one, Kimberly said one, Josh said two. All right, so we got a few ones and a few twos coming in. All right, cool. Well, here's the thing. If you entered one, then I'm going to show you how to start to right the ship a little bit. I'm going to show you some things that you can do to get things back on track. And if you entered a two, I'm going to show you how you can make sure that things don't fall over so that everything keeps going business as usual and we get through this together. Because the good news is, and there is good news, the good news is that we've been here before, right? Most of us own businesses, and now some of us didn't, but most of us own businesses in 2020 when COVID hit, right? And I remember, March of 2020, the second COVID hit, a lot of my clients started panicking. And what I started doing is I actually started doing a daily coaching session for all of my clients. I still remember it was 4 p.m. every day. All of my clients, I do a daily coaching session, be like, all right, guys, here's what we're gonna do. Here's how, here's how you can fix this. Here's how you can get clients. Here's how you can get more, here's how you can continue to pay the bills. Here's how you can continue to pay your staff. And the cool thing is that as a result of those coaching sessions that I did during COVID, my clients, some of them had record months in the middle of COVID, like March and April of 2020. Those were record months for some of my clients because they were following the advice, right? Now, it wasn't just, the normal advice that you hear. It was like, we got to figure out, how do we get scrappy? How do we make sure that we're actually doing things that are going to allow us to not only not drop in revenue and not have to lay people off, but also actually continue to make money, continue to grow, and continue to be prosperous, right? So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about how to basically survive in an economy where things are tightening up, where there's a little bit of uncertainty, where your clients are potentially scared as well, right? I'm going to teach you a lot of things that you guys can do that's going to allow you to thrive during this time. Does that sound good? Give me a sounds good in the chat if that sounds good to you guys. If you want to know. All right, cool. So here's the cool part, right? what I didn't realize, and a couple about a year ago, Bill and I wrote a book called Law Firm Growth Accelerator. Give me a me in the chat. Type me in the chat if you've read Law Firm Growth Accelerator. Type me in the chat. I'm gonna get my screen shared here real quick. All right, you guys see my screen? Chris Laporte, give me a thumbs up if you see my screen. All right, cool, cool, cool. All right, so Law Firm Growth Accelerator. So, who here has read Law Firm Growth Accelerator? Look at the chat here. I see a lot of me said that they've read Law Firm Growth Accelerator. Oh, Sid's here. Sid, I actually have. I'm actually going to be talking about you today in this chat. So, Law Firm Growth Accelerator, right? What I didn't realize is, we wrote this book, Law Firm Growth Accelerator, and it was a number one bestseller. And it's funny. It's actually, this is as of today. We released it a year ago, and it's actually still number one bestseller in law firm marketing and advertising, just because of the fact that this book has gone on to help so many people. But what's funny is that back in 2020, what I didn't realize is that we were actually using the law firm growth acceleration model. And the law firm growth acceleration model is the model that we came up with, that we invented, that we determined that if you're going to grow a law firm that's going to put more profit in your pocket, more free time on your calendar, and still give you amazing results for your clients, you've got to have four elements in place. And we call these elements the law firm growth acceleration model. So they consist of lead generation. Leads are to a law firm as gasoline is to a car. If you don't have leads, you're not going to go anywhere. But you also have to have intake, because all the leads in the world are useless if you don't have an amazing flawless intake system to convert them from lead to signed client, right? Now, once you have lots of leads and once you have lots of clients, the problem ends up being that unless you have an amazing team to do the work, you're going to be stuck working 90 hours a week. And I don't think anybody wants to work 90 hours a week. So you have to have a self-managing team of rockstar employees that you actually trust can do the work probably better than you in most cases. Like, really, you should be hiring people smarter than you, not people that you're smarter than. They always say if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room, right? So once you solve that problem, once you have an amazing team, a lot of times what happens is our expenses go up along with our revenue. So the bank account doesn't actually grow. And what we realized is that these are the four elements that you need to grow a law firm that puts more profit in your pocket, that gives you more free personal time than you've ever had before, and still delivers amazing results for your clients. But the thing is that the law firm growth acceleration model can also help you optimize for these times. Because if we're worried about the economy tightening, and if we're worried about how are we going to make sure that our law firm is optimized so that we can get as many clients as possible out of every lead that we get, right? Because we don't want to waste leads, we don't want to waste intake, we want to make sure that our team is actually being as efficient as possible. Well, the law firm growth acceleration model is actually how you make sure that your law firm stays, having great months. And if you're dropping a little bit, you can look to the law firm growth acceleration model and figure out, okay, how can we fix some of these things, and how can we make it so that we're getting back to where we were and then exceeding where we were. And you do that also with the law firm growth acceleration model, right? So if you want to survive in any new economy, in any type of economy, the law firm growth acceleration model will show you how to do it. And I'm going to walk you through the first two steps of this today. But actually, what I want to do is I actually want to give you guys a gift, because this is our first week back. Who wants a free gift right away? Type one in the chat if you want me to give you a free gift. I want to show you something really, really cool that we want to give you guys as a special gift just for hanging out with me today. All right, so we have this really cool competitor analysis and intake audit that we do, right? Now I'm going to show you this, and this is like brand new. But basically what we do is, and I want to invite you guys to do this completely free, just so you can kind of see where you're at, right? Our team is going to, we started putting these audits together, right? And what's cool about this is an audit that audits your current marketing. And not only that, but also audits your three biggest competitors. I did four, your three biggest competitors, right? So what we'll do is we'll look at your marketing, we'll look at your ads, we'll look at your website, and then we'll also look at your three biggest competitors, and we'll literally tell you exactly what you're doing well, what you need to improve, and what your competitors are doing, and then what you need to do to beat them. right? Who here would be interested in something like that in a report like this? Like this is exactly what you'll get. So you can see down here, it shows you like this is just a sample report, but this is something our team puts together. It's so cool. All this cool stuff. And these are like actions for success. This will actually show you what to do to beat the law, to beat your competitors. And we analyze your paid marketing and give you actions for success for that. So not only that, we'll also give you an intake audit, right? Because all of the leads in the world are useless without amazing intake. So what we'll actually do is we'll actually secret shop your law firm. Type secret shop in the chat if you'd be interested in having a secret shop your law firm, right? So we'll do all that. And this is our gift to you for hanging out with us today. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to drop a link in the chat right now. And you can go ahead and fill out the information. We're going to ask you a couple questions about your law firm so that we can we can actually do our audit, answer your information in there. And then what's going to happen is, somebody from our audit team is probably going to reach out to you at some point because they're probably going to have more clarifying questions about your law firm and everything. But we'll give you one of these reports for free. Does that sound good? Hit one in the chat if that sounds good. And then, all right, fantastic. All right, so go ahead, fill that out, and we'll go ahead and get you guys your audits. And it's going to take a couple days because these are pretty in depth. But first come, first serve. So if you want to do it, fill it out right now. Now, while you're filling that out, I'm going to move on to the next part of our content. So one of the things that we need to really understand when we're dealing with a economy that is slowing down a little bit is we have to know our numbers, right? That's kind of the first thing that we really need to know as business owners. And this is something that I learned a long time ago. One time when I was talking to a mentor of mine, and we're talking about how can I improve my business, and he was asking me questions like, "What's your CAC? What's your LTV? What's all these questions?" And I kind of just looked at him with like a blank stare on my face. And he looked at me. He's like, "Andy, without data, you're just an idiot with an opinion," right? So I was like, all right, well, I guess I don't want to be an idiot with an opinion anymore. I actually want to have numbers, right? So the numbers that I really want you guys to pay attention to, these are your numbers that every law firm owner needs to know. Your first is going to be something called CAC. Does anyone know what CAC stands for? Type CAC in the chat if you know what CAC stands for. Maybe 3 seconds, then I'm going to tell you the answer. 3, 2, 1. All right, it's cost to acquire. Exactly. Sid got it. And Sid is a client of ours. Sid knows his numbers. All right, so CAC, cost to acquire a customer or client, right? Now, the other number you really need to know is your LTV, your lifetime customer value. Now, in marketing, what you really need to do is you need to make sure that your CAC is lower than your LTV. If your CAC is less than your LTV, then you will be making money, right? Now, obviously, you want your LTV to be several times larger than your CAC. If it costs you $1 to get a client and you only make $1 per client, that's not good. If it costs you $1 to get a client and you make $5 per client, that's good, right? So how do we figure out CAC, right? Well, CAC is really actually very simple to figure out. CAC equals your marketing budget divided by your new clients. Now, give me a yes or a no in the chat. Do you currently know the CAC for your law firm? Give me a yes or a no in the chat. Do you know your CAC? And it doesn't have to be exact, but approximate. All right, so Sid said yes. Christopher said no. Julia said no. Lauren said yes. No. Yes. Michael said yes. Joshua said no. Keisha said no. Okay, cool. Well, the first step in doing this is we got to figure this out, right? Let's figure out what is our CAC. So that's your homework, first of all, is I want everybody to figure out what is your CAC. Because if you don't know how much it costs to acquire a customer or a client in your case, then we don't really even know where we are, right? Imagine a professional football team playing without tracking, the score or tracking their yards that their quarterback threw for, or, their offensive and defensive numbers, right? They have to have these numbers. These are essential numbers, right? So a lot of times what we want to try to do, and what I'm always focused on how do we take the CAC, how do we get our CAC, and how do we lower our CAC while increasing our lifetime customer value. Because if we can spend less to get a customer or a client and make more on every client that we get, that's going to be pretty cool, right? Because in between those two numbers right here, that's your profit, right? So how do we lower CAC? How do we get clients for less money, right? Well, the first thing we want to look at is we want to look at our lead generation. That's the first part of the law firm growth acceleration model. We want to look at our lead generation, and we want to ask ourselves, what can we do to increase the number of clients that we get for less, right? Now, what's funny is that in times like this, the first instinct is always revenue's down, clients are down, cut the advertising budget, right? That makes zero sense, right? Like, I know a lot of times that's kind of like the first thing that gets cut. And I've always kind of wondered why people do that, because if the one thing that's going to bring in clients you're turning off, how do you expect to bring in more clients, right? So we don't want to turn off our advertising budget. In fact, what we want to do is first acknowledge the fact that most people do cut their advertising budgets. And we want to be able to take advantage of that. So Warren Buffett has that saying, be greedy when everybody's fearful and be fearful when everybody's greedy. Well, everybody's fearful right now. So now is the time for us to actually be assertive with our marketing budgets. Now, it doesn't mean be reckless, but it does mean, not to cut them off. It does mean to take advantage where other people are stopping. And the cool thing is that when other people stop advertising, it actually gets cheaper for you to advertise. So the first thing we want to do is we actually want to tighten our advertising budget, right? Now, if you are any type of law firm other than personal injury, then what you want to be doing is using LSA ads. And let me show you exactly what LSA ads. These are the LSA ads right here. So it's at the top of Google. And as you can see, it says, criminal defense lawyer at the top. And the cool thing is these are the ones that say Google screened right here, so you can tell what they are. But these are my favorite way for law firms to get clients. Give me a 1 in the chat if you're using LSA ads currently, and give me a 2 in the chat if you're not using LSA ads for your law firm. Okay, cool. So Amber is, and Joshua is not. Carmen is. David Buckley is. Oh, hey, David Buckley, what's up? Let's see. Okay, we got a lot of people that are not using it. All right. So LSA ads are my favorite way to get clients. And the reason why is because they're pay per call, right? You can see right here, it says get phone number. It says get phone number right here. And on mobile, it's a simple click to call. You click the button and they call, and you only get charged when somebody calls you, right? Now, if a marketer calls you or somebody calls you trying to sell you something, Google has an automated dispute system that will actually kick out the leads, that will actually dispute those and refund those calls. So you're only paying for phone calls, which is really, really cool. Now, a couple caveats. You definitely need to have good reviews. Right. So you can see in this one, you can see Law Office of Judy Kim. She has 471 reviews. That's fantastic. Compared to Watson Law, Watson has 72. That's good. But the truth is that most of the time what's going to happen is Judy Kim is going to get the phone call just because of the fact that she has more reviews. And this goes for Google as well. We're going to talk about Google Maps in a few minutes, but you have to have good reviews. You also have to have good intake. You have to make sure that your intake is answered 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, because you're paying for these calls. So you don't want them to go to voicemail. You're not going to get a refund if it's not like you can't say, oh, well, it went to refund. That wasn't a good lead. No, Google knows it was a good lead, and they're going to charge you, and actually they're going to penalize you more if it goes to voicemail. So you can't have your calls going to voicemail, right? So LSA ads. Now, if you're not using LSA ads, one of the best things that you can do is Google ads, right? And Google ads work very, very well. They're below the LSA ads, and these are also known as PPC ads and different things like that, right? So Google ads, though, are a two-sided coin, right? On one side, you've got the landing page. I guess I should probably use a pen here. On one side of Google ads, you've got the landing page, right? And the landing page is the page that people click on and they actually land on when they click on your Google ad. So you have the ad, they click on it, and then it takes them to a website. That's your landing page, right? And then the other side of the coin is the ads platform itself. And a lot of times people think that Google ads are too expensive, but the reason that they think that is often because they're only optimizing one of these sides. Usually what happens is they just optimize the ads platform and they completely neglect the landing page, right? So when you optimize both the ads platform and the landing page, then what ends up happening is you end up getting really, really cheap, really, really affordable ads. And this works for all practice areas, including personal injury. Like I said before, LSA ads work for everything. They don't work great for personal injury, but the ads platform. Now, Before I show you about the ads platform, I want to show you kind of the philosophy around why this works and why most people don't take advantage of this, right? So there's a concept that is called the 4 levels of buying. And most of the time, people just completely ignore the 4 levels of buying. But the truth is that every human being in the world follows the 4 levels of buying, right? So when somebody, let's look at your potential clients, right? Every single potential client out there starts as either being unaware of a problem or they don't have a problem at all. So, for example, let's say you're a personal injury attorney. There's people that are driving their car right now that do not need a personal injury lawyer. However, tomorrow they're going to get into a car accident. They're going to get rear-ended. They're going to get T-boned. Something's going to happen. And now they need a personal injury attorney, right? Or let's say you're a family law attorney. Let's say you're a family law attorney and or let's say it's a person who is married and their spouse is currently right now sitting at the law firm signing the divorce papers, and tomorrow they're going to get served, right? So they have a problem. They just don't know that they have a problem, right? And this is where most people are. Most people are either unaware of the problem that they have or they don't yet have a problem. Now, once that problem hits, once they become aware of that problem or the problem occurs, then they graduate to the second level of buying, which is research. This is where everyone goes to Google and they start searching all those keywords. What do I do after a car accident? How do I get rid of my neck pain after a car accident? How do I calculate child support? Am I going to lose my house in a divorce? Am I going to go to jail after a DUI? Like all those research keywords, that's what ends up happening. Now, after they go through the research phase, then they move on to the third level, which is called vendor selection. Now, vendor selection is where they go to Google and they search personal injury attorney, criminal defense attorney, immigration attorney, family law attorney, divorce lawyer. That's where they're actually going because now they're entering those, we call them buyer intent keywords, right? The keywords that actually indicate that they're actually looking for somebody and they're getting ready to hire, which will then push them to the fourth level, which is where they actually hire or retain a law firm. Now, what's very, very interesting is that if you actually pay attention to any given market, and this is something that most lawyers don't understand and or most honestly, it's most marketing companies don't even understand. When you really look at this, so only 3% of any given market is actually at the vendor selection stage. So that means that 97% of the people that need a law firm are at the research stage. So let me ask you, but here's the other interesting thing, right? 97% of law firms advertise at the vendor selection stage, and I would say probably about 3% of law firms advertise at the research stage. So let me ask you this, and let me know in the chat. In the vendor selection stage, where supply is really low and demand is really high, what does that mean for pricing? Let me know in the chat. What does it mean when demand is really high and supply is really low because only 3% of the available people are there? What does it mean for pricing, for advertising? Let me know in the chat, guys. Increased pricing, exactly. It's very, very expensive to advertise here. This is why, you can do car accident attorney and pay $100 a click for car accident attorney, right? Now, let's conversely look and let's look at the research phase. If 97% of the people that need an attorney are in the research stage, but only 3% of the attorneys are advertising there, what does that mean for costs at the research phase? Let me know in the chat. Are costs high or are costs low at the research phase when most of the people are there and there's very little demand? Exactly. There's not a lot of cost there. Now, there's something that's even cooler about this though, right? So Forrester did some research and they found that 82% of people prefer to hire the companies that help them perform the research. 82%. So what that means is that if you can advertise and you can capture people while they're in the research phase, then what they're going to do is they are going to skip vendor selection and hire you. And it's cheaper to do this. Now, one caveat. you're not going to just not advertise at the vendor selection stage. I'm not saying stop advertising at vendor selection. What I'm saying is start also advertising at the research stage. Because what this allows you to do is this allows you to dollar cost average. So let's say you have, one click for a car accident attorney near me that costs you $100. And then you have another click for how do I relieve neck pain after a car accident that costs you $2.50. Well, you just spent $102, but when you divide that by the 2 clicks you just got, now you're down to $60, right? And you keep doing that again, you keep doing that again, and it starts dollar cost averaging your prices. And that's one of the ways that you can make Google advertising very, very affordable. That's one of the sides of the coin, is understanding the strategy of what we're trying to do, right? So when it comes to actually optimizing the ads platform, right? The number one thing that we always want to do is we want to make sure that we're avoiding showing ads to people who were never going to hire you in the first place. That's the number one way that you waste money on Google Ads, is that you're showing ads to people who were never going to hire you. So what you need to do is you need to make sure that whoever is running your ads for you is using data to determine where 80% of your signed cases are coming from, not leads, not clicks, but like signed cases, right? So there's a couple different ways we do this. And the first way that we do this, the first thing we use to determine, is going to be keywords. So keywords, if I can get this pen to work, there we go. So keywords are the first thing that you want to look at, right? And you want to look at what are the actual keywords that result in signed clients. Now, we have a way to do this for our clients because we've spent over $100 million on law firm ad spend. We've managed over $100 million in ad spend for attorneys. Somebody type 100 million in the chat. Like we've got this data, right? So the cool thing is that we can look at things. So like we found some really interesting things. So for example, for a car accident attorney, you would think that keywords like car accident attorney, car accident lawyer, personal injury attorney, things like that, you think that those would be the main keywords that would drive the traffic, but it's actually not true. The actual keywords that really drive intake, or that drive cases, I should say, are two of them. There's injury attorney and abogados. Those are the two keywords. And if you don't actually have data, you would never know that, right? So we want to look at what are the keywords, right? But then the other question is, what are the research keywords that people are using? So, for example, like I said, if we're at vendor selection, keywords like abogados and injury attorneys, those are the vendor selection keywords. But what are the research keywords? So how to deal with neck pain after a car accident? Do I need a car accident attorney? What do you take pictures of after a car accident? Like all these thousands of different keywords that people are searching for. If we can have a strategy together to actually help people solve those problems and help them do that research, then what's going to happen is you're going to dollar cost average, and you're going to make your Google ads perform much better. Now, some other keywords you want to look at are things like local keywords as well. Local keywords are really good. Like local transits and names of local hotels and names of landmarks and sports teams and like different things like that. Anything that's local to you, local keywords work really well. And then finally, the fourth type of keyword are competitor keywords. Morgan and Morgan is searched more times than car accident lawyer in the state of Florida, right? There's a clue there. So I know that there's some states where you can't advertise for competitor names. So this obviously depends state by state. But if you're in a state where you can advertise when somebody searches Morgan and Morgan, and you can show an ad that says, here's why we're better, and they click on it, it takes them to your landing page. Those are great ways to get low cost clicks for people that their intent is to hire a personal injury attorney or a car accident attorney, right? So keywords are very, very important. It's very, very important that you base these keywords on data. Now, the second thing is demographics. The demographics. We want to make sure that we're showing our demographics to our ads to the right people, right? Who are your ideal clients? Not like who, if you think about like who are your dream clients, you think about what is their age, what is their gender, what is their income, what are the other things demographically that you can sort them by, and then start showing ads to only them. So for example, we have a client, his name's Mark Real. He does family law for fathers. He does fathers' rights. So right off the bat, we can eliminate every woman, and we can eliminate every male that is not a father, right? So like in personal injury, we find that most of the time personal injury cases come from the lower 50% of income brackets. So we can optimize our ads for those types of things. Now, The third thing we want to look at to optimize ad platform is devices. What are the devices that people are using when they're searching for you? As you guys know, mobile's really big, but it's not the biggest for every single practice area. Actually, it is the biggest for every single practice area, but it skews much heavier for some practice areas, I should say. And then finally is the time frame. How long does it take after somebody decides to hire an attorney and they begin their search? How long does it take before they actually make that decision and hire that lawyer? In some cases, like criminal defense and personal injury, the average is 3 days. Other practice areas, it's much longer, right? So we want to know what is the time frame that we need to be looking on, right? So if you optimize all those things, then your ads platform will be highly, highly optimized. But the second side to the coin, as I said, is going to be the landing page. So how do we optimize the landing page so that we know that when they actually get to our ad, they're going to be successful and they're actually going to pick up the phone and call us? Now, the cool thing about this is that we've got a lot of data on this, and the standard industry average, the industry average for the legal industry is 6.98% conversion rate. Now, that's according to wordstream.com. And what that means is that 6.98% of leads across the legal industry will actually turn into or I should say clicks. If 100 people click on your ad, then 6.98% of them will actually convert into a lead for you, right? Now, SMB is 17% average. So our landing pages convert at a 17% rate compared to the legal industry of 6.98%. Now, let me show you why this is significant, and then I'm going to show you how you can do this as well. So let's say the term divorce lawyer. Let's say it costs $50 a click. So every time somebody searches the word divorce lawyer, it's going to cost you $50, right? So if you have a legal industry standard website and you get 100 clicks, that's going to cost you $5,000. And what that's going to result in is that's going to result in 7 calls and a cost per call of $714. So you're going to get 7 calls and you're going to get $714. You're going to pay $714 per call. Now, let's say you have an SMB team landing page and you actually use all the things that I'm about to tell you about to optimize your page, right? And you get the same 100 clicks. Now, it's still going to cost you $5,000. But instead of 7 calls, you're going to get 17 calls. Now, I want to know in the chat, type in the chat, let me know if 10 people come into your office, how many of those on average will turn into clients? Will it be 2? Will it be 3? Will it be 5? Will it be 7? If you have 10 qualified people coming into your office, how many of them will actually turn into a client on average, right? All right, so Lisa said 7, Sid said 65%, Polly said 4. Okay, so this is the difference because we're getting an extra 10 leads for every 100 clicks, right? So this means that instead of paying $714 per call, what we're actually paying is, in addition to getting an extra 10 calls, we're actually only going to be paying $294 per call. Now, let me know in the chat, would you rather pay $714 per call, or would you rather pay $294 and also get 10 additional calls? Option A or option B? Let me know in the chat. And I think everybody, I can answer for you. You'd rather pay $214 or $294 per call, right? It just makes business sense. Plus, you get 10 extra leads. You get 10 extra leads that you can actually turn into clients, right? So how do we actually do this? How do we actually go from a 6.98% industry average to a 17%? Well, there's a few ways that we do it. The first thing that we want to do is we want to make sure that on our landing page, we're talking about 3 things. We're talking about what is it the client actually wants. We're talking about how they get it very briefly. And then finally, we're going to talk about what does their life look like and what will their life be like after they get it, right? Now, I'm going to give you a little tip. Nobody wants your services, right? You have to ask yourself, what do I actually sell, right? What do I actually sell? And I'll tell you this, most lawyers don't sell what they think they sell. Most lawyers think they sell a divorce, or they think they sell a DUI defense, or they think they sell, negotiating with the insurance company. But that's not actually what you sell. That's your deliverable. What you sell is the result, right? Nobody wants a divorce. Nobody wakes up in the middle of the night and just thinks, you know what? I just can't wait to get that divorce, right? Nobody wants that. What they want is they want freedom from an abusive spouse. They want to start a new life with their soulmate. They want to have financial security. They want to have a relationship with their kids, but they don't want the divorce, right? So what we need to be talking about is we need to be talking about what is it that they actually want and what is their life going to be like once you help them achieve what it is that they want. Now, your deliverable is the thing that gets them what they want. They don't want the divorce. If they could snap their fingers and just move on with their life, they would do so. Any divorce attorney, if any divorce attorneys in here, let me know if I'm correct on this. And I've heard many attorneys say this. The number one thing clients say is, "I just want this to be over." Right? No one enjoys the divorce process unless you're, sadistic, I guess. But like most people don't enjoy the divorce process, right? Luckily, I've never been through a divorce. Don't plan on getting divorced, but I can just imagine it's not a fun process, right? So that's the first thing. You have to make sure that you're talking about what they actually want, because people don't buy what they need, they buy what they want, right? So that's the first thing. You make that emotional connection. The second thing is we need to make sure that the message in the ad matches the message on the landing page. So what do I mean by that? Well, that means that if you have a divorce ad, you need to go to a divorce landing page. If you have a child custody ad, it needs to be a child custody landing page. If you have a traumatic brain injury ad, don't take them to a generic personal injury page. Take them to a traumatic brain injury page, and so on and so forth. And when you do that, you end up getting a 17% conversion rate. Now, the other thing is social proof. You have to have tons and tons of social proof. Everybody here probably knows that I'm a big fan of reviews, right? Reviews, I think, are one of the most important things you can do for your law firm. Well, use them on your landing page. People want to see social proof because people believe that if you can get that result for somebody else, then you can probably get that for them as well. So that's how you get the 17% conversion rate. Now, another thing that you can do to get your cost per your CAC, your cost to acquire a customer down is show up in the Google 3-pack, in the Google Map Pack. Now, one of my favorite ways to do that is using reviews, but let me explain to why. There's three parts, and let me show you an example of the Google 3-pack here. And this is actually where we're going to see Sid. This is the Google 3-pack, right? And Sid, who I called on earlier, who happens to be on this call, this is his law firm right here, Citrine Law. Now, the cool thing about Sid is that Sid does personal injury and he does criminal defense. And hopefully you don't mind me sharing your story, Sid. So he does personal injury and he does criminal defense. He started his firm, I think it was last April, so April of 2024, right? And now he's ranking for these really, really big keywords: Yuma, Arizona personal injury lawyer, criminal defense lawyer, Yuma, Arizona. He's getting these amazing results and he's ranking in the Google 3-pack. Now, here's the cool thing. When you show up in the Google 3-pack, this is where the majority of phone calls and clicks come from, right? The majority of clicks that you get and the majority of the phone calls that you get for your law firm are going to come from the Google 3-pack. And here's the even better part. It's free. You don't have to pay for these every single time. So you need to make sure that you're getting into the Google 3-pack. Now, there's three things that Google takes into consideration when they're ranking you in the Google 3-pack. The first thing they consider is how close are you to the person who's searching. Now, you can't obviously do much about that, so we're not going to worry about that. The second thing is how prominent are you on the internet? So how many links do you have? Do you have your business citations or business listings filled out? And we do that for all of our clients. That's one of the reasons our clients have such success. But you can fill out your Avu, your Yelp, your FindLaw profile, your Justia profile. Like all these profiles need to make sure that they're filled out and completed. Now, the third thing that they use to determine who shows up in this 3-pack is relevancy. How relevant are you to the thing that's being searched? Now, the number one way that they determine relevancy is through your Google reviews. So if you have lots of Google reviews and those Google reviews contain words, phrases, keywords, and synonyms that are all related to your practice area, then what's going to happen is Google is going to see that you're related to, that you're really relevant to what people are searching for, and they're going to show you higher. And if you notice, Sid has 585 reviews here. Now, how did Sid get 585 reviews? Well, he did a lot of work on his own, but he learned how to do it through my book, 5-Star Attorney. right? And so has anybody read Five Star Attorney? By the way, give me a five in the chat if you read Five Star Attorney. So Sid read my book, Five Star Attorney. Sid's the first person to read it was Sid, right? Christopher Barber said three. I don't know what that means. I think it's a five. So Five Star Attorney. So it shows you literally step by step how to get so many reviews. No problem, Chris. And by the way, Sid, let me know yes or no in the chat. Would you recommend that everybody on here read Five Star Attorney? It seems like it worked out pretty well for you, right? So here's the thing. Maybe you don't have time to watch an entire video or to read an entire book. What if there was like an hour-long video that I could give you that was just basically everything you need to know from Five Star Attorney so you can get these results as well? Would you be interested in that? Give me a one in the chat if you'd be interested in getting something like that. All right, cool. Well, maybe what I'll do is maybe I'll give you something, maybe I'll give you a cool bonus at the end for that, right? Oh man, we are so close to being running out of time here. I'm going way too slow. All right, I got to go faster. I got to go faster. All right, social. All right, so I'm actually gonna have to skip ahead here because I have way too much content. Are you guys getting a lot of value out of this so far though? Because I've gone a little longer than I wanted to, but I want to make sure that you guys are getting value here. All right, so. Another thing that we can look at is social media advertising. Another way to get cheap leads and cheap cases, lower your cost to acquire a customer, is social media advertising. Right now, some of you may not know this, but we have a business partner named Ethan Ostroff, and he has grown his law firm solely on social media advertising. And what's cool is that here's some of his numbers, and he's cool enough to share these numbers. He basically, and this is all from social media, he generated 63,135 leads, and he has turned those into 5,063 cases. So if you're playing at home, you might notice this is actually only 8%. This is actually only an 8% conversion rate. But here's a really cool number I want to share with you. Less than $300 a case. And these are injury cases, by the way. So who here would love to get 5,063 cases at less than $300 a case? Give me a 300 in the chat if that would be fantastic. And I'm pretty sure that would lower your cost to acquire a customer very, very, very low, right? So let me show you how he did it. He did it using social media marketing. Social media marketing. He did it using PSA marketing or using something we call misconception marketing, right? So what he would do is he would film videos on social media and he would basically just call out common misconceptions. So he would say, listen, a lot of times people think that after a car accident, you're actually going to make less money if you hire a personal injury attorney. But the truth is that research has found in study after study after study after study that people who've been injured in car accidents typically will put more money in their pocket, 30% more money in their pocket, even after paying the attorney's fees when they hire an attorney. And that's because the insurance company doesn't want you to hire an attorney. They know all the tricks. The personal injury attorney knows all the tricks the insurance companies use to pay you less, and they don't stand for it. So if you've been in an accident or you know somebody that's been in an accident, you need to hire an attorney, click the link around this video, and I will help you out. I'll talk to you soon, right? And he would create videos simply like that, just misconception marketing videos, and just get lead after lead after lead after lead after lead. Now, here's the secret, though. The secret, though, is that he had 63,000 leads, and he had to figure out how to whittle them down to 5,000 cases, right? That's not an easy task. And that's actually why most people think that social media marketing doesn't work. They think that because they got so many junk leads, so it's 8% turn into cases, that means that 92% were not good. So the secret is you have to have an intake team that helps you sort through these cases, right? That's the easiest thing to do. So what you have to do is you actually have to have an intake team that's not you. And this is where the law firm growth acceleration model comes in, where you have to understand how you get the team and you have to understand what that team should be doing. So but what you actually should have your team doing is, and it shouldn't be you, but there's a process that you can use called 3 times 3 ways. I call it the 3x3 method, right? And this is what Ethan does. This is what he trains his team to do. This is what our most successful clients do. Whenever somebody is a lead on your law firm, you have your intake team do the following. On day 1, they're going to text then they're going to call, and then they're going to email. Then on day two, if they haven't heard back yet from the lead, they're going to text, they're going to call, and they're going to email. Then on day three, if you still haven't heard back, they're going to text, they're going to call, and they're going to email. And this process is the difference in a campaign that works really, 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 really well and one that doesn't work and that you basically say, oh, social media doesn't work, right? So let me ask you this. Is it a smart investment? Is it worth it to put a system like this in place if it means that you can get $300 cases? Give me some yeses in the chat if you actually think it'd be interesting to put a system like this in place if the end result is that you're getting cases for $300 a piece, right? Well, every single person in here should say yes because it's a no-brainer. The system pays for itself, right? Now, there's some other things with our intake that we can look at though. So who here is tracking their intake? If you're not tracking your intake, then you're leaving money on the table. So this is a tool that we have that we give all our clients, and I call this the law firm advertising success chain. And we use this to determine where are the holes in your intake system, right? And when you use this, you can actually figure out, okay, here's the things that we need to fix, and here's the glaring holes. So I want to give everybody an example of how to use this. And then if it's cool, I'd like to give you a copy of this so that you can use this for your own intake, if that's cool. So let me show you exactly how to use this. And what you want to do is you want to use this with your clients or with your intake team. So let's say you get 100 leads, and of those leads, you get 100 leads, 75 are qualified, right? So that means that 75% of your leads are qualified. Now, let's say you get 75 leads, but only 50 of them book a consultation. Well, that would be 67% of your qualified leads booked a consultation, right? Now, let's say you do 50 you book 50 consultations, but 30 of them show up. Well, that's a 60% show up rate. Now, I want you to keep in mind also, this is different for every law firm, right? So what you would do when you get the sheet is you want to adjust this for your law firm's process, right? Because maybe they call and they do a consultation right there, or your personal injury, and you send out the retainer agreement right there, right? So this is different for your law firm, but the principle is the same. You're looking at every single step, right? So 30 people show up, and then let's say 30 people show up, but only 5 turn into new clients, right? So you have a 17% close rate. Now, 30 people showed up, five hired you. That means that you have 25 people that you can then follow up with later. But let's say you only followed up with 10 of them, and that would be 40% of people that didn't hire you, you're following up with. And then the people that you follow up with, 3 of them hire you. So that gives you a 30% thing. So we can look at these numbers now, and we can look at every single step, and we can say, okay, how can we fix these numbers? What can we optimize here? So for example, you had 75 qualified leads, but only 50 book consultations. What happened there, right? Why did only 50 book consultations? Well, what this allows you to do is this allows you to actually go in and see, okay, what are we saying that is causing 33% of our people who should qualify for a consultation to not book a consultation? How can we optimize that process, right? And then let's say that you increase that number, but only 60% of people are showing up for the consultation. Well, how do we get the other 40% to show up for the consultation? Because if you look at these numbers, if nothing else changes, if you change this from 50 to 75, all these numbers, even if these percentages don't change, all of these numbers are going to be higher, right? So if you're getting 50% more consultations, then what's going to happen is you're actually going to get 50% more clients, even if your close rate stays the same. Is this making sense to everybody? Give me some yeses in the chat or some no's in the chat if this is not making sense or if this is making sense. All right, cool. And I know Sid, you use this too, right? So does anybody want a copy of this? Does anybody want me to give you this so you can actually input this and use this on for your firm? Give me some ones in the chat if you actually want to be able to use this for your firm. All right, cool. All right, so the other 2 parts of the law firm growth acceleration model are self-managing team and profits. How do we build an amazing self-managing team, and how do we actually make a profit, right? Well, Bill is going to teach you all about that on episode 2 next week, which is going to be a continuation of this episode. So who here wants to learn how to hire an amazing team, how to get the most out of your team by holding them accountable with KPIs, how to not have to lay anybody off during this entire crazy process, how to make sure that you're actually making a profit even as times are getting rocky and things like that. All right, cool. So what I want you guys to do then is I want you to register now. Team, go ahead and drop the link in the chat to register for next week. It's going to be the exact same time next Thursday, May 8th at 1 p.m. And Bill is going to be teaching you all about how to build your amazing team and also how to turn a profit. Now, I told you I was going to give you guys some bonuses. Do you guys want some free gifts? Some free gifts that I even above and beyond the competitor analysis and the intake audit. All right, so here's what I'm going to give you guys, right? So, what I want you guys to do, team, if we can drop that link one more time for the competitor analysis and the intake audit. And I want you to remember what we're going to do is we're going to give you this audit right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to analyze your law firm plus your 3 biggest competitors. And we're going to give you a plan that shows you specifically how to beat them step by step. And this is an example of what the report looks like. You'll actually, you can see down here, competitor down there. We actually show you competitor for your SEO so you can get ranked in the 3-pack, just like I showed you, like Sid did. We're going to give you actual steps that you can take to beat them. We're going to do an SEO audit. We're going to do a paid marketing audit. And the cool thing is we actually give you a health score. I actually didn't show you this before. We actually give you a health score right here that shows you how you stack up across your competitors and what you can do to beat them, right? So go ahead and fill out the form. It's just a simple jot form. We'll just ask you some information. And as our gift to you, we're going to give you this completely free. And then we're also going to do an intake audit where we're actually going to secret shop your law firm and tell you all the holes that you have in your intake. Hopefully you don't have any, but very rarely do we find law firms that don't have them. Now, as an extra special bonus, I'm going to give you a couple other things. Just because I'm feeling really generous and to welcome you guys back to the talk show. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to give you that review accelerator training that I talked about before. If you remember, Sid, who's on here and who is he is right here, Citrine Law, 585 reviews. And you can see he's ranking the top 3 for Yuma, Arizona personal injury lawyer, and same profile, criminal defense attorney, Yuma, Arizona, right? That's because he has so many reviews. So I took all the concepts in 5-star attorney and I put them into a 1-hour training, and I'm going to give you that completely free. So give me a 1 if you guys want that training. We'll give it to you completely free. The second thing we're going to give you as a special bonus is I'm going to give you the law firm advertising success chain tracker so that you can actually use this for your law firm, so that you can use this to track your intake, to track how many clients are we getting? How many leads are we getting? How many are booking consultations? How many are showing up to the consultation? How many of them are coming in? The cool thing is that you see where it says training and cheat sheet next to each of these. That's actually a link to a training where I specifically show you how to improve every single one of these, right? Now, the other thing you're going to get is you're going to get Ethan Ostroff's intake scripts that he gave to his team. So you remember I was telling you how he got 63,000 leads and he turned that into 5,063 cases at $300 or less per case. And he did it using a 3x3 method. Well, we're going to give you the actual scripts that he uses, right? And then as a special bonus, and these scripts, all you have to do is just hand them to your team and they will be able to do this as well. And then as a special bonus, I didn't actually even get to cover this yet, but I'm going to give you a topic research ChatGPT prompt that you can use, go into ChatGPT, and it will help you come up with all those misconception marketing topics and different things that you can talk about in your ads so that you can generate the leads on social media so that then your intake team can go through and sort the leads out and get clients. And we'll give you all that when we go through your audit. So again, if you haven't signed up for the competitor analysis and intake audit, the link is up there one more time. I'm over my time. I hope you guys got a lot out of this today. This was definitely this is something we're going to be doing every single week, and we're going to be trying to bring as much value as possible. We're going to bring on cool guest presenters and speakers and everyone that can help you guys, not just keep going through this entire time, but into the future and make sure that we're providing tons of value for you. So guys, thank you so much for hanging out. Really appreciate it. If you have any questions at all, my email is andy@smbteam.com. So feel free to send me a message, and we will see you guys next Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern where we're going to cover how do you hire an amazing team? How do you hold your team accountable with KPIs? How do you make a profit? How do you make sure that you're following a financial plan so that your bank account actually increases rather than having your, your revenue go up, but then your expenses go up with it as well. So guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me today, and I will talk to you guys all soon.